So what is value? Value is the difference between the cost of a product or service and the benefits that you receive. So pain is what you get relieved from. Gain is what you benefit from. Cost is what you pay. Value is what you get. But there's a real difference between communicating value as part of a sale and creating value as part of a sale. So communicating value is a lot about the short-term approach, the tell approach, the kind of walking, talking brochure, if you will. It's very seller-centric, it values the sale, and it's quite transactional. When you create value as part of a sale, as part of a sales process, it's empathetic. It focuses on the long term. You assume no two customers are the same. You tailor your solution to the specific needs of that customer. It's about them, their journey, value the relationship, and you're very much acting as a consultant. There are 4 types of value, and they feel different to every individual and to every customer. But generally, these 4 types of value fall down into long-term business value. So that is things such as strategic business goals, stock price, how a business is doing against its ESG goals, annual financial reports, brand value, all those kind of things. Short-term business goals. So these are typically tactical. They'll be around the quarter or the monthly targets. Are you hitting revenue? Are you achieving cash flow? Are you getting the right number of new business leads in? So they are tactical and short-term in nature. They're about this month or this quarter's number. Now, both those are business goals, kind of economic goals, if you like. The other 2 are very much individual types of value. The first of them is political. So from a political value perspective, how is our buyer viewed by their peers, their direct reports or their superiors? You might look like they're able to hit their bonus, they're more likely to get promoted, they're less likely to lose their job, they are happier, they have a happier team that's easier to manage. Their personal value really dives down into your buyer's quality of life, how that's impacted. Working shorter hours, one less thing to worry about. It's how you create value. You hear a lot of people talk about this these days from a kind of work-life benefit, the ability to get home, to see the kids, to spend quality time, making memories. So how can what you do, the solution you provide, help your client achieve that? Every organization, when it's making a purchase, goes through a process. Now that process might be very well defined, or it might be very poorly defined, depending on the organization that you're dealing with. But we can take that kind of process and we can boil it down into some key component parts that are fairly typical in terms of any business and how they operate. And this diagram here is a representation of that. And I like to call it the buying cycle because that makes it specific to the customer, specific to the client, specific to the individual or group of individuals that you're trying to help. So the buying cycle starts with the identification of a problem. So it goes from being everything's fine and dandy to, right, we have a problem. The next stage is, well, is it a big problem? How significant is that? Does everyone see it as a problem? And if it is seen as significant enough and it is recognized by enough stakeholders, does it warrant taking some action? So that's kind of stage 1, moving from a situation where, so that's stage 1, moving from a situation where you don't perceive there to be any issue to have identified an issue or a problem that you need to take action to resolve. Stage 2 is about exploring the solutions, exploring what options do we have to solve this? What options do we have internally? What options are there in the market? What criteria should we be using to make that decision? And which provider best meets those criteria that we decided upon? So that's stage 2. The third stage is about addressing concerns. What risks are there that we're taking by making this decision? What happens if the solution doesn't work? What happens if there's an issue along the way? What happens, or do we trust the preferred supplier? Is there that level of trust, that level of relationship there that gives us confidence? These are presented here in a kind of natural order, 1, 2, 3, but they're not necessarily linear. Clients can jump from 1 to 3 very quickly and then back to 2. They can jump from 2 to 1 and they can decide it's just not a problem. So this is not a one-way system. And it's not necessarily linear. And that's why when you are conducting your sales discovery and sales process, you need to be testing across all of these different areas throughout your conversations with your client. Stage 4 is supplier selection. So typically this is where a decision's made and a contract or an agreement is executed against. And this can become, particularly with large enterprises, very involved. Who actually has the authority to sign? Is there budget? How do you release finance to pay for it? What legal terms are around it? What payment terms? Do we have an MSA? So on and so forth. So it can get very nitty gritty and very technical. It's not as simple as we've made a decision, we'll push it through. So particularly in enterprise, you need to be across the detail of that. And then the final part, the solution ownership, this is where the client takes delivery of their product or solution, they implement it, and those questions that we'll ask there are, how quickly will we see value? Are we getting value? Does it achieve everything that's promised? And assuming that's the case and it's implemented fine, there are typically always some kind of hiccups. There's always that kind of slight disillusionment after the honeymoon of making a decision. But assuming that broadly meets the value criteria that were laid down, the next thing that happens is changes over time. Solution ownership, customer owns the solution or the product, and in 3, 6, 9, 12, 24, 36 months, something will change and there will be a new problem, challenge, issue, as there inevitably is. And then you're back at the beginning, you're going from that unconsciously there's an issue to consciously having to find an issue, as in problem one. And that is why we refer to it as a buying cycle.